All right, guys, welcome back into another NFL DFS video. Got the week 3 picks here, and we're bringing back in Brooks Radio. What is this, the third appearance on 9 to 5 for you? Officially, I
Yeah, I
guess.
think so. At least, second or third this season too, between Charles Shaw for golf and then did that Vikings preview, which I don't feel like I was too far off on calling it a rebuilding year. That's for sure.
No, honestly, looking back at like the podcast talks, it's been pretty spot on, like especially with the Vikings as well. I know we mentioned like Madison would probably be a bigger role this year, and we were obviously seeing that as well. And we'll touch on that in a second here, but it's been a fun first 2 weeks. It's kind of crazy. That's already week 3.
Yeah, and now we're starting to get some fans trickling into the stadiums a little bit more as they're opening up. I know at US Bank Stadium, it's still no fans today. That's like the only game, like that Vikings Packers game week 1. That was the only one that felt really off to me. Like it felt like a high school scrimmage. And
Mm-hmm.
I know the NFL still, the sound's provided by the NFL, but I don't know what it was. Maybe just it just felt so off to me compared to every other game with or without fans. But I digress there. So it'll be an interesting week 3 ahead.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel, whether I like it with like a little bit of stadium noise, whether I like it with some fans. It's kind of a little bit of mixed for me. It's just a weird feeling in general. But for the show layout, we're going to do kind of a similar show as to what we've done the first 2 weeks, but we're going to do like the betting picks as well as the DFS picks. So we start off with the betting side, and then we'll get into the DFS picks. So we'll start off here.
For sure.
Which game do you got pulled up first?
So first off, I have, and we'll start with the noon slate. We have the Las Vegas Raiders at the New England Patriots. This is all the spreads, money lines, everything over under. This is all from BetMGM. And it has New England as a 6.5 point favorite at home. The over under is at 46.5 points. As far as money line goes, the Raiders are plus 240 to the Patriots minus 286 on this one. So there's some potential with this spread. I mean, the Raiders looked very solid on Monday night. That said, I mean, I'll bring this up a couple times with the cliche coast-to-coast travel. Playing at New England's never easy. Obviously, it's a little bit different now, different team, different philosophy, different environments without fans, but there's still something to consider there too. I don't know what you think about this game, but
So,
this is a little tough for me.
so real quick, who do you think's the best team in this game? Who do you think's the better team right now?
That's hard to say. I mean, there. Yeah, as far as obviously coaching, you got to go with the Patriots. I think you should never sleep on Belichick. I mean, they're a yard away from pretty much getting that win last week at Seattle. I'm still going to take the Patriots just off name alone, but at the same time, I mean, don't sleep on the Raiders this year.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. For me, what did we got? I don't know. This game just seems like a stay away to me because it could become a defensive battle, it could become a running battle.
Right.
I
wouldn't touch this one.
Yeah, I'm going to stay away from this one now from like a DFS standpoint. Really, the only play that I like a decent amount would be Julian Edelman. He's just like a safe floor play each and every week, I think. And then, I'm seeing news here. Henry Ruggs is out, huh? So Hunter Renfrow becomes in play then. A little bit more checkdowns. Darren Waller's even more.
I was about to ask about Darren Waller.
I'm seeing he's questionable as well, but he's expected to play. Yeah, that makes Darren Waller a little bit more in play. There's a lot more tight end value later on in this video that we're talking about, but I think Julian Edelman is really the only play that I want to go with in this game, and then kind of just staying away. Sure, like Rex Burkhead's pretty cheap. He's the min price for running backs today, but with James White out, he should still have that role that he had last week. But I don't know. For me, it kind of just seems like a stay away game all around. Any thoughts, like DFS wise, for this game for you?
I stay away from any of those running backs right now in DFS or just in fantasy. I mean, the only one that intrigues me is both running backs that would really intrigue me right now aren't playing in this week between James White and Damian Harris. But again, Cam Newton's a goal line back right now. And so at the end of the day, I just don't want to touch any of those running backs right now.
Yeah, we talked about this on off air a couple of times. It's pretty much like Cam Newton's the running back. He's a goal line back. He's gonna have the most touchdowns, and it's crazy how that's like coming true
I
as
wouldn't
much
be
as it is.
surprised if he has a very good shot at leading that team in rushing, depending on how things move forward with that committee.
Wouldn't it be crazy if he led the NFL in rushing touchdowns, just because he like punches in
Oh,
like a few goal line TDs each week?
I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, there were a couple times where the Seahawks last week were trying to sell out everything to stop that. And you saw it that one time where they faked the draw and then threw the easy touchdown pass. So I mean, it's just a matter of how much they sell out that run, because finally they were able to stop it with a 2-point conversion and then that final play. But that's also Pete Carroll and the Seahawks. Imagine him doing that against the Jets. I mean, it could be a long. I mean, it's going to be a long year for the Jets, but that game could get ugly real quick.
Yeah, I agree there. Just yeah. No further thoughts on that one. Let's move on to the next game here.
Totally. Yeah, looking at the this is another coast to coast one. This one I also find really challenging, and the point spread really indicates it. The Los Angeles Rams taking on the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are 1.5-point favorites. Over under also 46.5. Buffalo the money line is -121 for Buffalo, plus 105 for the Rams. A lot of I kind of like Devin Singletary as a DFS play this week with Zach Moss out. I mean, this is the time, if any, for Devin Singletary. I mean, he's been kind of a frustrating, kind of scrappy running back that doesn't necessarily pass the eye test, but with opportunity, you'd assume he would play well. And, well, here's an opportunity, so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I agree completely there, especially the Devin Singletary call. It seems like Jarrett McKinnon's kind of going to be the chalk at the running back spot, which makes Devin Singletary a nice, easy kind of pivot to a less, lower ownership and whatnot. And it should be safe, too. He's had 10 and 9 DK points each of the last 2 weeks, and that was with splitting the workload with Zach Moss. So I definitely get that play. Other than that, it's tough for me to gauge this rest of the game. I know, particularly for me on the DFS side of it, I'm going to be attacking it more morning slate and afternoon slate, which is weird. I typically never do that. Yeah. But the morning slate sucks just because the first two games we already touched on, and it's like, oh, that's a pretty good picture of what the early slate is compared to the full slate. So
how do you feel about the Rams backfield?
I do feel pretty comfortable that about Malcolm Brown and Henderson. I mean, Malcolm Brown's the workhorse back, not workhorse back, but number one back right now. I think he would have scored the goal line touchdown that Henderson got last week if he wasn't injured. With their situation, it's like, why risk any further injury? Because they got great running backs there. So I would rather go Brown if we're talking about that way. And then just really, I think Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp are dart throws. They're a little bit too cheap. John Brown and Diggs are going to be dart throws each and every week. So you could always do like a small stack with Josh Allen and then those two receivers. But I do really like Tyler Higbee once again this week. I know, 7 out of the last 8 weeks he's played in the NFL games, they've been over like 22 DK points per game. So it's pretty spectacular there. And Buffalo has kind of struggled against tight ends this year. If you could say the Buffalo Bills defense had a weakness, it'd be through the tight ends. So that's pretty much it for me. So only Singletary for this game for you, really?
Yeah, only Singletary. I mean, Higbee excites me very much with this matchup and just in general. I mean, from a fantasy standpoint altogether, it looks like he's about 5,900 on DraftKings. So, I mean, not like, I mean, so fairly close to like the George Kittles of the world and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so I think people are definitely recognizing his emergence as a tight end. But at the same time, I mean, I wouldn't feel bad about that at all by any means.
Yeah, it seems safe.
And as far as just picking the actual game altogether, I mean, that's so tough. Again, it's such a cliche, but I hate the coast to coast traveling. I mean, the Bills, that's not an easy environment to play in. But at the same time, I'm also I'm having a hard time buying into some of the Bills hype as of late. I think it's been a little bit too much. It's the classic case of teams that losing franchises, like it can be contagious. And I know they squeezed in the playoffs last year. They're a division favorite this year in the NFC East, but I think a team like the Rams that had a bit of a crumbling season last year, it was the classic case of an NFC team making the Super Bowl and
Hmm.
then just sliding a little bit. That's just kind of the natural progression of the NFC, and then they'll bounce back. And I kind of see that here firsthand with the Rams this season.
Yeah, for me with this game, I think I would rather just go stay away from this one betting wise.
Yeah.
That's a nice spot. Like you can always pick and choose your spots here. So yeah, I'm just gonna stay away. If I had to choose, I think I would choose the Bills, but there's no point in betting on it because we're both kind of in disagreement there slightly. So
Right.
Dave's in the chat. He was asking about the early slate here. So we'll talk about the Bears game next here. So he's wondering, do we dare play Mitchell Trubisky in the early slate? And I'm like, we kind of have
I
to.
don't
Oh, we
I
kind of have
don't
to.
hate Mitchell Trubisky this week. I mean, as much as our opinions are of him as a quarterback, when he's in this right situation, when he starts using his legs a little bit, when he starts to get his swagger back, it's definitely there.
Mhm.
And the Falcons have been proven to be a great matchup for that. I would very much consider Trubisky for an early slate play, 100%.
And see, that's kind of the beauty of like making it, splitting it up between like early and afternoon slate because the main slate, I don't feel comfortable playing Trubisky there, but like it just makes too much sense on the early slate. You look at what he's done; he's averaging 19.7 DK points. His lowest one so far was 15 DK points, which at his current price point is not going to hurt you. And like you said, Falcons have been absolutely dominated via the passing game, and Trubisky hasn't looked horrible. Like he just
It,
hasn't. He's
He
had
might
his
test your
moments.
patience early on. I mean, you saw last week with the Cowboys. I mean, they had a slow start against the Falcons, and Trubisky, week one, looked hideous until the final stretch of that game against the Lions, and then he started to light it up. So it might test your patience a little bit, but at the same time, I mean, if you want results, you want a pretty good floor, I would not rule out Trubisky for this week.
Yeah, I agree. And like the rest of this game too isn't horrible. And this is kind of the problem once again going back to the full slate. It's like David Montgomery, he looked a lot better this year, especially last week. He got involved in the passing game last week. He had 21 DK points. I think his carries are going to continue and his opportunities are going to continue to go up. I think he was a little bit banged up heading into the regular season. I don't know. I like him at this price point going against the Falcons too as well, but I'm not touching him on the main slate. But for the early slate, he does come into play, so I don't mind him as a play. And then really, it's just going to be figuring out who's going to score the Trubisky touchdown. Is it going to be A-Rob? Miller? Miller hasn't gained that many snaps, so a kind of
No.
sneaky play is Darnell Mooney. He's looked good on
Yes.
film, like, and he's 3K. So if you're really trying to get, like, maybe that's just a showdown pick. If you just want to play that game, I think he'd be a nice sneaky like captain's pick if you're doing just like a showdown approach there. So, um,
I'm
Matt,
really liking David Montgomery, though. I mean, the fact that he produced last week, starting to get used more in the passing game, and he hasn't hit the end zone yet, too. I mean,
he did it on the
there,
passing, but rushing,
yeah,
he
but like,
should, yeah.
yeah. And so, I mean, there's going to be a point there where he starts getting some of that, he starts finding the end zone on the ground, too. So I think the ceiling for David Montgomery is great.
Yeah, I agree completely there. And that's kind of a sneaky game stack that you could do. I know specifically for the early slate, once again, I was left with a lot of salary left over. So that means you could play Russell Gage. That means you could play Calvin Ridley. You could play Julio if you wanted to on the early slate specifically. Matt Ryan, too, decent play. Let me get to
Yeah.
one question here, and then we'll switch games. Well, what's the over and under for this one? Or points
Yeah,
for?
so the over under for that one, scrolling a little bit, I lost it for a sec. Literally, almost all these are 46.5, including this one.
Mm-hmm.
The Falcons are 2.5 point favorites right now. As far as money line goes, Bears plus 125, Falcons minus 150. Honestly, I wouldn't. I could see the Bears finding a way to pull this one out. I'm not going to. This is another one I probably wouldn't touch, and I I know that's um, not very defiant of us, not really touching any of these so far, but sometimes that's just the case.
No, and it's like you just got to play smart. I know the last 2 weeks, me and Hazi have been on doing a separate video for betting out or the betting side of it, and
Yeah.
out of the weeks that we were, or out of the picks that we were in agreement on, the lock bets were 3 for 3. There was one where we didn't agree on, and that would end up being kind of like a push. So, like, pick and choose your spots and attack those spots. Bet what you know. That's kind of my whole thing. But real quick, into a couple of questions here. Any thoughts on Bengals rookie tight end Drew Sample? You know, you could play him. Obviously, Joe Burrow really wanted to target the tight ends, but I think that was just kind of the defense lighting him because they weren't beating them at all. Like, I don't know. I would rather stay away from him. There's much better other tight end options. Have 3 solid receiver positions. Yeah, Mr. X, if you want to do that, you can. I know like Humphreys, Barrios, KJ Hamler, they're all really cheap, and you could easily fit.
I like Barrios.
Yeah, you could easily fit some of those guys into your slot. So, dude, even in season long, I'm thinking he could be like a sneaky pickup for this week if he plays. He is questionable, but I think he's going to play. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I'm not really going to go one way or the other. I wouldn't touch that game either. Falcons just so unpredictable. Just in terms of, I mean, they're a frustrating team to be a fan of.
Mm-hmm.
I feel for Falcons fans right now. And then, I mean, here's the thing: if the Bears can find a way to squeak through another win here, I mean, they're with the 7 playoff teams. I mean, I talked about how I kind of like the chances of the Lions heading into the season in the North, maybe making an impact, but this could be another one of those Bears years where they just find a way to win those close ones and, I mean, start to get that swagger on their end and squeeze in the playoffs. So would not rule out the Bears this year.
Yeah, I think that they could easily squeeze into a playoff spot here. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. Personally, I would actually favor the Falcons here in this one. I think they're going to win by at least 6 points. I don't feel as great about that one, but I do feel better about that than I did the last 2 games. But that's kind of my approach. So yeah, let's switch into the next game here. We do have Jerry in here, who is a Vikings fan as well. Just throwing that out there. So
also my condolences. I feel your pain, man.
Yeah.
Should we get to that one then?
Yeah, we'll do that one. That one's interesting.
This one blows my mind. The fact that the Titans right now are only 3-point favorites, I find just fascinating to me. I feel like Vegas knows something that I don't. I mean, it started off as like only 1.5-point favorite, so it really, I mean, it hasn't moved that much, but so Titans just 3-point favorites on the road at Minnesota, where that environment is irrelevant right now without fans. It over under is at 49.5, and Titans, as far as money line, it's they're minus 150 to the Vikings plus 125. With the injuries on that defense right now, Anthony Barr now out for the season. His backup, Troy Dye, is now on IR, which at least is 3 games this year. And then the Viking secondary right now, they're going to be rocking Holton Hill, a 7th-round pick, who has made an impact in some games, but still has been burned so far. Mike Hughes is out, the other starting corner. So they'll be relying on Jeff Gladney, early round pick this year. And Zimmer does not like playing rookie corners. And speaking of rookie corners, their starting slot corner is a later round pick, Harrison Hand, who has not played it down in the NFL yet. So it's not looking good. Yeah, with Cam Dantzler, another rookie, also out. That there's no depth in that secondary right now. I mean, if you think Anthony Harris and Harrison Smith can help bail these guys out, well, think again. And this is my most defiant one. I'm taking Tennessee with the points. The over/under I probably wouldn't touch, but I mean I'm taking Tennessee 100%. My only fear is the fact that Vegas might know something we don't.
So the only thing I can think logically as to why this is so close is because the Titans have really just been running the ball into the ground. So, burns the clock out. And obviously Cook too as well. Like it could become a running game, which could keep it close. But yeah, I think this is our lock bet of the week once again. So targeting the Vikings again, I think I would lock this one in as well.
And the Vikings primarily specialize in that zone blocking, stretch running, and Titans are pretty good against that. They're going to have to run downhill. So you never know. You might want to, I don't know what, like, I don't know what Alexander Madison looks like. And that's a huge risk considering you don't know what the workload is. But if they're going to want to be able to run the ball, it's going to have to be downhill. And I think he's a better downhill runner than Dalvin Cook, at least right down the middle. There's a thought there.
No, now that you say that, like just based on the film that I've seen the last like 2 weeks, you're kind of right. He just falls forward a little bit more, like a yard or two more each time. I never saw that. That's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, I do not like the Vikings stretch running game. I don't like them in play action right now. I mean, they have found a way to game plan against Jadeveon Clowney before, like that Seahawks game last year where they worked the screen game really well for, say, Dalvin Cook, and that's where he's going to be more valuable. It's just a matter of how they execute it and how well they do. Yeah, I totally agree, though. I mean, I see Derrick Henry getting a ton of carries. It could be one of those frustrating ones, almost like Jonathan Taylor, where you thought he could have just had a monster game and it was just very good. Like where your expectations might be a little bit too high there just because they keep churning that clock. And I totally agree with that on the point spread. But I still think it's one of those things where if the Vikings, after the scripted plays, can't sustain any drives of their own, it could get ugly real quick.
Yeah, we're in agreement there on that one. So, honestly, I really do like Derrick Henry. The problem with him is that it's tough to pay up for him on the main slate. Going back to my point for this kind of video, it's like play Derrick Henry on the early slate, lock that in, but on the main slate, there's a ton of great value where if he kind of just has a similar game where he doesn't score a touchdown, you're kind of not sitting pretty at that point. But I think it's worth the risk on the main slate.
Now, you mentioned excuse me, in the Rams game, your big Tyler Higbee guy, he's what, 5,700?
Yep.
To Jonnu Smith's 5,200. I think my hype for him. It's probably a little bit extreme, but this week should be sexy for him. I mean, again, I told you about the slot corner situation. I told you about the linebacker situation. They made Mo Alley Cox look like a beast last week. I really like him. Also, a sneaky play, and I have to actually see how much he would cost, but your guy Hopkins or Humphreys, Adam Humphreys.
Oh, Humphreys. Yeah.
I really like him for a cheap play for $3,900 in the slot with AJ Brown out. Again, I think there's some good opportunity there.
No, dude, I completely agree. Adam Humphries, pretty much on the main slate, on the early slate, I really like him as a play. This is one I would go out of my way to make like a showdown build as well, if that game's available. I believe it is, because like you could put Humphries in the captain spot and be sitting pretty. Been over 10 DK points each of the last two games. You kind of just kept saying Vikings are going to suck against the slot, and I'm just like, oh man. Gotta play Humphries then at that point. So I have him in my cash build currently just because I think the nice safe floor is there. But it's like we'll touch on Berrios, we'll touch on Hamler a little bit later on. Those guys are pretty decent discount values as well. But I think Humphries is the safest of them. And I will say I'm going to be going away from my boy Corey Davis this week. He's a little bit priced up.
I was just about to ask.
Too priced up for me. So, if you want to play Ryan Tannehill too, I think he'll be safe on the early slate. I wouldn't touch him in the main slate though.
100%. Yeah, I was just about to ask about Corey Davis. It looks like we got a question there too from infamous 0924. But yeah, Adam Humphries would be my guy this week for sure.
It's just safer. Sure, Corey Davis should be able to hit value at that price point, but I would just rather take the significant price discount with Humphries.
Totally. What else do we have for the noon games? We still have a handful to get to.
Yeah, we'll start burning through these a little quicker here.
Yeah. Texans at the Steelers. Steelers are 3.5-point favorites. That defense is looking real good. Over under is 45.5. Money line for the Steelers minus 176 to Houston's plus 150.
Let me pull that one up too. Man, I mean, Pittsburgh should win this game, right? I mean,
Yeah,
they're the better team.
I'd probably take the Steelers with the spread. I mean, this is, I mean, in a regular fantasy season or regular fantasy, the Texans are definitely like some of those players you could try and buy low right now,
Mm-hmm.
just because of these tough matchups. But
Cooks, Fuller, yeah.
um, yeah, but yeah, I wouldn't really touch anyone on Houston right now. I know the Steelers gave up a pretty good game to Darius Slayton, but that's been pretty much it as far as wide receivers go.
Yep.
So yeah, I like the Steelers. I kind of like James Conner this week. I don't know what his cost is though. I don't know if it'd be worth it there. Um, yeah, I don't know if there's anyone on the Steelers that you like.
So yeah, I'm actually gonna do a game stack build real quick, and once again, this is specifically for the early slate. But I kind of
Okay.
sneakily like it. So Big Ben, he's been looking good recently. 20 DK points in each of the last 2 games. We were kind of trying to figure out if he was going to be healthy and look like his old self. He was. James Conner, I don't mind as well. I think the first week was just a matter of him being a little bit banged up in the first game, so they're like, why risk it? It's a long season. He has an injury history. Let's get him out of the game. Let's get him right for next week. And I think we saw that happen. So you could play. I mean, this is a crazy game stack. I normally don't suggest a quarterback and running back with the 2 receivers I'm about to suggest, but Deontay Johnson you could put in there. Juju Smith you could put in there. I mean, it's a huge game stack, obviously, and they could run it back with Brendan Cooks or Will Fuller. And obviously, this is just a game stack, nothing you should go crazy with. But for the early slate, I kind of like the setup of the GBP side of it. For the main slate or anything like that, it's kind of a stay away for me. I will say Jordan Atkins. I know someone on the 9 to 5 page, I think he's on YouTube with us right now live, mentioned him week 1 and week 2 as like a sneaky play. And we've seen that. He had 7 targets last week, had a touchdown in week 1 as well. So decent, but nothing too crazy about this game that I like.
Yeah, there's nobody that really excites me, and I think that's just going to be the Steelers altogether this year. I mean, they're a team that's going to rely on their defense, and I mean, nobody's going to be super flashy, but just effective.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. So, yeah, I'll go with the Steelers in this game at the point spread there, and then nothing really else with conviction.
As far now, this game I find very interesting. The 49ers at the New York Giants. And it's not even so much, I mean, just with all the injuries on the 49ers provides great opportunity and a lot of question marks. And I think this is a chance for you to really take advantage from a DFS and just a fantasy standpoint altogether. The Niners are a 3.5 point favorite. The over under is 42.5. And the money line is minus 176 for the Niners, plus 150 for the Giants. What are your thoughts on Nick Mullins?
So, for like DFS purposes, he's very cheap. Real life quarterback,
Yes.
he's okay. But for DFS purposes, he's pretty much the min price or the lowest price starting quarterback.
Yeah.
So I always kind of say that you have to. He's in a decent matchup, so you always kind of want to favor a quarterback like this where the floor should be there, and it's not a horrible matchup. He could easily get there, especially in this offensive system. We've seen him be successful here and there as well, so I don't mind it as a punt play. But there's Teddy Bridgewater a little bit later on. I think he's a very safe play instead, so that's kind of, I went off of Mullins
Really
because I
like
Teddy, but
I really like Mullins just for the price point, and I just think, I mean, in 2018 he did a great job filling in for Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, he wasn't amazing, but between that and then that offense, I really like his potential there. Yeah. So
the problem is his weapons aren't there. Like
right.
Kittle's not there. Heck, they're down to McKinnon now at running back spot. None of the receivers are there. So that's the worry. And that's kind of why I went away from it a little bit, but I still think there's some opportunity there given the matchup as well. And then
and Julio is officially out, according to Billy.
Is he?
Here.
Wow.
Yep. So what do you think about Calvin Ridley, Russell Gage then?
Yeah.
Does
So
that change anything?
it makes me like Hayden Hurst a little bit more as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, Calvin Ridley for the early slate, I'm probably just locking him in, sadly. Although maybe he gets more defensive attention and that hurts him instead. You never know how that's going to go, but definitely going to be locking in. So we do have a bunch of questions coming in here as well. So Mixon or Jonathan Taylor, RB2, Jonathan Taylor for sure. David has 2 Nick Mullins lineups. Hey, good luck, man. Good luck. Dude, I'm telling you, I'll tell you the stack a little bit later on, but the Panthers stack is much safer and cheaper. Giants defense should feast. So yeah, let me talk about the Giants side here real quick, because I really do like the Giants in this game. If you want to stack Daniel Jones or not, that's up to you. It's a risky play, but I think it could pay off. We've seen him have some really high upside games randomly throughout his short career here. I'm going to stay away from the running backs, especially with Freeman just recently signing. But I really, really like Darius Slayton, and we've seen him have the upside there. 31 points in Week 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then Golden Tate is super cheap for his floor. He had 5 targets last week, which he was able to convert into 9.7 DK points. It's just going to be tough for me not to play Golden Tate just because he does typically have that safe floor. He gets open so easily. I think that sets you up really well on that side. And then Giants D too, with the 49ers, how banged up they are offensively and defensively, they should be safe to probably get 8 DK points.
Yeah, no, I really like Golden Tate this week. I just think safe floor. I think he's, if you're desperate for a start too, I mean, I got a flex in just regular fantasy. I wouldn't rule him out either. So that's a good call. And yeah, did you say you're touching any of those running backs like Deion Lewis?
No, it's not worth it. It's definitely too risky. And I don't think there's that much upside there. So not worth it this week.
Sounds like Devonta Freeman is starting, but again, I wouldn't touch him either. I mean, Adrian Peterson jumped in real quick to Lions and got a decent amount of carries, but yeah, that's another one I probably wouldn't touch either. Definitely just wait and see how this pans out a little bit.
For sure.
As far as the actual game prediction goes, I'd probably still go with the Niners despite how banged up they are. Because, I mean, there's just as much – I mean, there's injuries with Saquon Barkley, their key player on the Giants. And, I mean, even with that, offensively, they weren't even able to get the running game going with him.
Yeah, I don't know. This seems like a stay away. I think the Giants are a little bit better than people have been giving them credit for.
For sure.
But the Niners, they blew out the Jets, and the Jets, they're probably the worst team in the league, but they were able to figure out with all the backups, and I could see them doing that again this week, so I get it.
They're a good next man up type of team, and that's one thing with the coaching and everything I like about the Niners.
Well, the GM too, like they set up the team to be easily replaced. Like everyone's like a mirror image of the other person, just slightly worse, which is great for what they've been able to do there.
No superstars, just an overall great team, and that's one thing I do admire about the Niners. Will they make the playoffs or make a big run? I don't know, but
especially in that division.
Yeah. Right, yeah, but I still like them there. Trying to keep things going though. This one I find interesting. The Bengals at the Eagles. Eagles have been off to a very, very cold start, but they're still 5.5 point favorites at home against the rookie Joe Burrow. The over/under is 46.5. Bengals plus 200 to the Eagles minus 250. What are your thoughts on this game?
This game is horrible. Absolute stay away. Yeah, the Eagles should be able to win here. I don't know. I don't know what to do with this one at all. I love Miles Sanders for DFS purposes, and I wouldn't say lock him in, but definitely play him a ton. After that, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? The tight ends, all of them should hit their value, Ertz, Goddard, and Sample, but I don't know. I wouldn't bet on this. I wouldn't play too much DFS with it other than Sanders, and I'm going to get out of there with that game. Like, that's pretty much it. Stay away because they're both been disappointing, to be honest with you. And that
I'm not bet. And is there anything about AJ Green to you with the amount of targets he had the past couple of weeks with the little production that intrigues you at all in one way or the other?
Yes and no. Let me clear the lineup here. So the targets are intriguing. 13 and 9 the last 2 weeks, and a lot of end zone targets as well. I don't know. I just don't want to play him at that price point. It feels like $500 cheaper, sure, but just seems a little bit too risky for me, and I kind of like to do stuff that I can predict. So,
yeah, I'm not touching that game either. Another intriguing one: Washington football team at the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are 7-point favorites at home. Over under 44.5. Browns minus 345 to the Washington football teams plus 275.
That game is insane. Like,
Hmm.
I like Washington here, to be honest with you. Um,
Yeah, I
Defense has looked good. Offense has been good enough.
probably wouldn't touch it in a parlay, but I mean, if you just want to bet like straight up on that game, I like the money line bet with Washington.
Well, honestly,
Uh,
in a parlay, that would help your odds a little bit more, I think, too. So you could throw that
yeah.
in there, Obviously, it'd make it a little bit
So
riskier, but
right. Yeah. So we kind of saw firsthand last week Antonio Gibson getting a little bit more usage, especially when they're playing from behind. That touchdown kind of bailed out his game altogether. Um, but thoughts on Gibson or anyone in that backfield
yeah.
for
So
the Washington?
backfield wise, no. With Gibson, I just kind of want to see it one more time.
Hmm.
I don't think he's that good of a running back. His vision, I think, is poor, but he is a good runner,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So once he's an athlete right now, so you just got to figure out the vision. Once he does that, I think it'd be set. Chubb and Hunt are going to be in play any week, I think, but against Washington's front seven, I'm a little bit worried about it. The real only play for me in this game is going to be Terry McLaurin. 10 and 7 targets, 11 DK points
Money.
week 1, 28 the week before that. He should have a safe floor, and we've seen that upside with him. So he's really the only play I'd want to touch in this game overall, to be honest with you.
I'm still waiting for teams, kind of like the Colts did with Adam Thielen last week, just to dial in on him and really, I mean, with all the targets he got and the production, I mean, just eliminate him and let these teams or let Washington and Haskins figure out what else they can do,
Yeah.
like beat us another way. So that's literally my only fear with McLaurin. But until I see that, I keep riding that McLaurin train.
Yeah, and he's like the ultimate GPP play, I think, each week. I don't know how safe he is in cash, but with that upside is insane. Oh, yeah, so Infamous did bring up Logan Thomas. You're right. I totally forgot about Logan Thomas there. You're right. Logan Thomas,
Yes.
I can't believe I forgot this, to be honest with you. So, yeah, 9 and 8 targets the last 2 weeks. He should have had a
Hmm.
touchdown last week. Dwayne Haskins literally just had to wait like a split second longer for Thomas to become open. He rushed the pass, and it would have been an easy touchdown. So, especially given the matchup, I do really like Logan Thomas. You're right. He's kind of my default tight end play. It was like so obvious to me this week that I've just like glanced over it. So I apologize for that.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And that's a good thing now, because if a lot of people are forgetting about it when it's great play, that could be a hook there for your
True.
lineup for sure. Okay, so we got that one. And as far as picking a team goes, I mean, would you bet either way with the
Well,
point spread or money line?
I don't think Washington's going to win, but I think they're going to be able to cover. So I like them.
Yeah, I like that. I like that for sure too. As far as the noon games, I think we covered them all. There were a lot.
Yeah, but none of them were
Yeah.
great. That's the thing. So
No, none are great. I'm definitely more intrigued by the afternoon games. Let's get right after it with the hat I'm wearing right now. Indianapolis Colts at home against the New York Jets. Um, the Jets, I think, are straight up hideous. I do not like an 11.5 point spread at all. I think I saw a stat that said like 0-2 teams are like 22-7 against the spread or something like that the past 2 years or something like that.
wow.
Or I couldn't tell you the range, but either way, and that's where I was almost intrigued about the Vikings, but it just was too small of a spread.
Yeah.
But I think of the Josh Allen Bills game against the Vikings 2 years ago, where it was like 16.5 points. It was absurd. And then they ended up winning altogether. I still like the Colts, but I do like the Jets to cover. The Colts did a really, really good job, or well, not a really good job. They ran the clock well, ran the ball well, but they couldn't put away the Vikings in the red zone. I mean, it was like 18-3 at half when it should have been 28,
Yeah.
35-3. They just could not execute in the red zone. So I don't like that spread, but that said, Colts for sure. As far as plays, who do you like?
Yeah, that's a sneaky game. And Philip Rivers does like to kind of keep games close, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
So that is insane. I think I would, once again, with the Washington game, the last game, I think that the Jets are just going to be able to cover. And they probably won't win, but I like that a little bit more. So I agree with that approach. And then just getting into the plays, the DFS side of it, I actually do like this game quite a bit. I like all the afternoon games a decent
Yeah.
amount, but Jonathan Taylor, I almost want to lock him in there, but it's tough. You don't have to lock him in there because there's a ton of great running back plays. Receiver wise, not too much that I like, but I really do like Mo Alley Cox once again this week. He's priced at a decent price point. Jets defense I
I
do
think
like as well, just because they're mid price. They should be able to hit value at that price point. Once again, they're not going to go. They shouldn't go negative, which is all you want from a base 2K defensive play.
is okay. Jack Doyle is still questionable. It looks like. I don't know
I
if
thought he was
he's.
ruled out. Was I wrong about that? I could be wrong.
I'm looking at that. That's literally my only concern. He's expected to suit up despite being listed questionable. That's as of an hour ago. So that's my only fear with Mo Alley Cox, but I do really like him. And that's as far as season long goes. That worries me about him. I think his size is awesome, and I think he's awesome. And there's plenty of room for tight ends, but you also have Trey Burton coming back soon, and they really like him.
Yeah, and just for the slate in general, there's a ton of other great tight end plays at that same
Right.
exact price point. So yeah, no need to risk that, I guess, just because if Doyle's gonna be limited or whatnot, there's no point of risking it. There's just as good as plays there.
You mentioned Jonathan Taylor, though. I actually do still really like him despite the price point because as far as the matchup in the trenches, their offensive line against the Jets' defensive line, I mean, that is one of the biggest mismatches we have going for us. I really like Jonathan Taylor this week. But again, the only thing is it's managing those expectations where it almost feels like I think it'll be an amazing floor, but he might not, have an Aaron Jones type game, which you hope for.
Yeah. And like with him, we already touched on Miles Sanders, Derrick Henry. We'll talk about Kenyon Drake in a little bit here. Jerick McKinnon as well. It's like there's so many great running back plays where I love Jonathan Taylor this week, especially with that over and under. It's showing that like he should get a ton of touches and a couple of touchdowns. But there's a path where you could fade him, where he's going to hit value. It's just whether or not he returns the upside. And that's pretty much what you're saying there. It's like he's a great play, but there could be other better plays or just as good of plays at a cheaper price point.
Is there any reaction or overreaction or underreaction to Naeem Hines last week and his lack of snaps?
So there was an overreaction week 1, and there was an overreaction week 2.
Right.
It's going to be in between there. That's just how it's going to go. They didn't need to.
And
pass
I think
the ball to
it'll.
him.
Right. I think it'll be game flow dependent too. I mean, and Philip Rivers is a guy. He looks like he could be his Austin Eckler. He could be his Danny Woodhead, if you will. But I think it'll definitely be game flow dependent there. So, anyways, and
real quick,
like
we got a question.
Yes,
Pittman or N'Keal Harry on DK. So just because it's a Colts game, I'm gonna go with N'Keal Harry. I don't know. I just don't think any of the Colts receivers have looked great, to be honest with you. Like they all look decent, but Hilton dropped a touchdown. I don't think Pittman Jr. I just don't like it. I'd rather go N'Keal Harry. It seems like they're trying to make that work. The Patriots are trying to make that happen.
They're definitely making room for him. I think there is something to say about with Paris Campbell's injury. There's definitely a lot of room for Pittman up the middle, and with the potential lack of tight end targets. But yeah, I like N'Keal Harry too. I mean, I think that game it will definitely be a little bit more back and forth, and I think Ham will have to throw the ball a little bit more, just like last week, and he's getting the targets. So I agree with you there.
But I would just rather go with Humphreys, who's at the same price point. I'd rather go with Berrios, who's at the same price point. You could pay up for Golden Tate as well. So I'd much rather do that.
100%.
So,
100%. Looking at the rest of the games here in the 4:00 slate, Carolina Panthers are at the Los Angeles Chargers. You mentioned you like Teddy Bridgewater this week for his price point. Chargers are 6.5-point favorites. That surprises me. The over-under is 43.5 points. Chargers minus 286 to the Panthers plus 230.
Yeah, it seems a little bit too high for the Chargers, especially given the fact that it's a rookie quarterback's second week, and now a team has game film on them. So that seems a little bit too high for me. And the Panthers haven't looked horrible. They've looked bad on defense, but Teddy Bridgewater's been decent. Sure, Christian McCaffrey's out, but maybe that could be like the whole Bucks thing, where sometimes with Giannis out, the Bucks would do a little bit better without their superstar, where it opens up other things. Like I guess last year for the Packers, it was when Devontae Adams was out, the offense actually got a little bit better because they were forced to be more creative and whatnot. So I don't know. I think I'd favor the Panthers a little bit more than that for sure.
And I will say this to the point that you brought up with liking Teddy. I mean, and granted, I'm dating back to his rookie year, but he was a better quarterback without Adrian Peterson, hands down, in my opinion, because they relied on that running game way too much. And he was a totally different quarterback compared to when they were rocking guys like Matt Asiata and Jerick McKinnon. The playbook was catered to him and not the running back. So I don't know if that'll happen necessarily this week. I think they'll kind of adjust as they learn Mike Davis and kind of get a feel for him as a back. I mean, he had a lot of receptions last week, but and then like to your point about Justin Herbert, obviously he looked very good for a rookie quarterback start, but I mean, he literally was told before the coin toss, get your helmet. And I know it's another one, like you said, the game film. Backup quarterbacks can find a way to come in a game with lack of preparation on both ends and find mojo and kind of get the ball rolling. And now that even him as a quarterback has a week to really work those first team reps, everything like that, there's a huge difference into your first known start versus your first like surprise start.
Yeah, and he had some risky throws last week where they were great throws. He was able to make the throws, but given a whole week of like preparation mentally for him, like you might question yourself a little bit more, and those risky throws could become turnovers. But talking about the plays in this game, so Billy's asking about Eckler or Drake. I like Eckler a lot more, not considering price still. Pull up Eckler here as a play. Just going against the worst run defense. You saw Rojo score a touchdown. You saw Fournette score a touchdown. Eckler's a much better running back than both of those two. You've seen him get 20 opportunities each of the last 2 weeks. And sure, week one, he didn't score a touchdown. Still scored 9.7. If he does that, that's going to hurt you this week. But I don't think that's going to happen given the matchup. He should be able to score 20 DK points pretty easily this week. If you guys want to play Josh Kelly, you could do that. Receiver-wise, though, so let's just talk about why I like Teddy Bridgewater. So Teddy Bridgewater, 5.2. We've seen him have a nice floor of like 14.6 DK points.
That's a great price.
Yep, and then you have DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, who have gone 9 and 13 for DJ Moore, 23 DK points last week. And then you got, where is Robbie Anderson? Robbie Anderson at 5.2, 10 and 8 DK points. Obviously, he's more of a big play guy, but he's scored 20 DK points in each of the last 2 weeks. He's
a favorite target of his.
Yeah, it's insane. I really kind of like that as a sneaky stack, and I don't think a lot of people are going to notice that one.
No, I don't think so either. I think that's a great play. Going to Billy's comment quick, I don't dislike Kenyon Drake this week either. I think he's another guy that just needs to find the end zone, exactly. And it would totally change the outlook of his season so far. There are a lot of guys like that right now.
Yeah, I actually really like Drake this week too, yeah.
So, I mean, if you're not considering price, I mean, go nuts.
Yeah, dude, this week is so frustrating because, like, the last 2 weeks, it was pretty easy to see, like, who the standout plays were. And so was this week. But there's a lot more standout plays this week than there were the last 2 weeks, which is the problem with this week. It's more or less, hey, we know we're going to be on the right players. It's just putting them into the right lineup to be able to cash, because everyone else should have a pretty decent lineup as well. So, I don't know. It's an interesting week. Where, like, literally, Drake and Eckler, like, Drake could easily score 10 more DK points than Eckler, and it would still make sense. So.
Right. Lines, you mentioned Drake. Lines are at the Cardinals. Cardinals 5.5-point favorites, over under 55.5 points. Wow, I would take the under on that. The Cardinals minus 250 to the Lions plus 210. What do you think here?
Yeah, Do we know the news on Kenny Galladay since I've been on live stream? I haven't. I'll pull it up here real quick.
Game
So
time, I know.
he's
Let me
expected
look.
to make his season debut. So
All right. Well,
that
that definitely changes things. I mean, I like Stafford more this week because of that. I don't know if they've mentioned anything about snap count and all that crap, but um, I definitely like that a little bit more.
Yeah, that still seems too high. And honestly, like I think the Detroit Lions are the exact same team as the Cardinals in the sense that I think they're both talented teams. I think like they're equally talented. The difference is that Detroit just always tends to crumble and figure out ways to
Yep.
lose. They're not clutch essentially, but I don't know. I kind of like them at +5 this week. That over under is crazy. I could see that definitely being under. It's more or less if you think the Lions are going to play well, you should probably bet the over. If you think the Lions are going to play bad, bet the under there.
What I don't like personally is I was thinking the Cards might be a good stream play defensively, but now with Kenny Galladay in, that makes me nervous.
Yep.
So as far as I'm actually literally hitting the waivers real quick.
Go ahead.
But on that note, yeah, any other plays in that game?
Yeah. So what Isaac was just saying there, our league setup has it so that each day the waivers go through at 11. That's pretty much just because everyone's working random hours of work. So waiver wire lock is at 11 here. So if you miss it, you miss it. So I might miss mine if anyone's injured.
But yeah, I'm moving real quick here. But
let me talk about the.
So bear with.
Let me talk about Cardinals real quick. So
Go for it.
I love Kyler Murray. I think he's going to be a safe play each and every week. He's still below 7K, which I really like. Kenyon Drake is in a great spot. He should easily be able to get 12 DK points, which would hit value, but I think he could easily go for 20 in this one. I also really do like DeAndre Hopkins. You could really fit a safe, like kind of cash build with these three, which is kind of weird to have a receiver, a quarterback, and a running back in a cash build, but I really do like that approach. And that's pretty much it. But those three should at least get you like 60 DK points at a min. With they could easily put up 90, and it wouldn't just make perfect sense.
These defensive streams are driving me nuts right now because last week I tried to stream Kansas City's defense against Tyrod Taylor, and then surely enough, that damn team doctor had to ruin everything for me. I mean, it wasn't a great play, but still, everything went pear-shaped after that. And of course, I lost by less than a point in actual fantasy because of that -1. But anyways, I agree with those plays altogether. As far as as far as the quarterbacks go, anything there?
Yeah, so I really like Murray as a safe floor, but I know we'll talk about the next game here. I think it'll be Russell Wilson is a little bit more expensive, but higher floor, higher ceiling, slightly. So.
Yeah, in fact, let's get to that one. Cowboys at the Seahawks. Seahawks 5.5-point favorites at home. Over under 56.5.5. I don't hate that one as much as the 55.5 with Detroit and Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
-239 for Seattle and +200 for the Cowboys.
Yeah, that over and under might be a trap there, but I'm going to fall into that trap because I really like that over and under. So I would definitely, smash that. I think this game's going to be an absolute blowout. We just changed live here from 5.5 on a DK Sportsbook, which is kind of crazy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I actually like the Seahawks here. I think they're the best team in the league right now, to be honest with you. Maybe give my Packers the push there, or the Bills, or probably Rams.
NFC championship game right now would be Seattle and Green Bay. If it were this time right now, but we'll see how the season unfolds. I think there you can make a case that the Cowboys' fluky comeback could spark some mojo.
Yeah.
I mean, they do have very good offense, and they might be able to keep up in a shootout with this with Seattle. That said, I really Seattle's like, as much as I dislike Russell Wilson as his personality, he's like my favorite quarterback. DK Metcalf, I think, will end up being a top 5 receiver this year. I'm straight up gonna say it. And then, so I mean, I like both these offenses. There aren't any real bad plays. Some are
No.
just better than other in this game.
So I'm gonna just go through a freaking stacking session real quick of
Yes.
this game. So we'll start off. I'm gonna do two stacks, one with Dak, one with Wilson. So we got Wilson here. Then you can go Cooper, Metcalf, Lockett, and then I like CeeDee Lamb a little bit more than Gallup this week, just because he's a little bit cheaper. But like, you got a great game stack there. You could easily switch Dak into there. You could easily fit one of the running backs into your builds too. That's the crazy part. Like, this is my favorite game to attack, and you can attack it so easily. And all these receivers should hit value. I would favor Wilson a little bit more than Dak, just because one, Zeke's there, probably the best running back in the league right now because he's healthy. But Wilson's a better quarterback. Dak had a couple of rushes that really elevated his week last week, and
Yeah.
his price point's a little bit too high for me now. So I just really like this game in general.
What do you think about the tight end for the Cowboys?
It's Schultz or whatever.
Yes.
Not this week. He's priced up too, which is insane. That's what I don't get. It makes me mad because week one I was all over Blake Jarwin as like a decent showdown value pick, and he got injured, which sucked. But I don't mind Schultz.
Well,
I'm staying away from it.
I feel like there's been a lot of Schultz hype following the Jarwin injury, like because there was so much Jarwin hype, and it was like next man up, and here we go, Schultz, and we'll see what happens there. Yeah,
it's been crazy how good tight ends are this year for DFS and fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane. Like,
even one reason why I'm dealing Kelsey, just because
it's crazy.
Anyone that's desperate, I mean. So yeah, I agree with you there. I like Seattle in this one, but I like the over under too. That's one I would definitely look at, but I still go with Seattle there.
Yeah, I feel more comfortable betting the over than I do Seattle though. There.
Totally. Looking at, I think we have one more game during this slate. Tampa Bay at Denver.
Real quick before we move on, just real quick. Someone asked like Lockett or Metcalf in GPPs. I actually like Lockett a little bit more across the board. I think Metcalf's kind of a popular pick. A lot of people just like playing Metcalf.
That's the problem.
And I think Lockett's safer as well. So I like Lockett a little bit more.
I agree. Everyone's trying to do the opposite there, but you kind of got to do the opposite of the opposite at this point.
That's exactly it.
And go with Lockett. So Tampa Bay at Denver. Tampa Bay is 5.5 point favorites on the road. I guess with the quarterback injuries. Over under 42.5, and Tampa Bay is minus 250 to Denver's plus 210. I think both receivers for Tampa Bay, I think, would be solid A-grade starts in fantasy. Godwin back from the concussion protocol. I don't like any tight ends in Tampa. I don't know about you. I mean, Bruce Arians literally just said this offense, will be hit or miss with tight ends. Mm-hmm. So that's a pretty big red flag. That could be coach speak, but I don't like it. Mm-hmm. On the Denver side, who do you like?
I'll get into this game.
And of course, Ronald Jones. I mean, the running backs for Tampa too. I don't know what your thoughts are either, but
this one I don't mind Driscoll as like a sneaky play. I will say the Broncos were going to be a decent team this year, I think, before they got injured. They're solid defensively still. I think I would smash the Buccaneers. I think they're going to win by at least a touchdown here just because of all the injuries, though. I think it could be a little bit higher scoring than what they have it set at. 42 is pretty low. I think it could easily be like 46 instead just because Driscoll's, I don't know, he just gets it done, it seems like. But I do like Melvin Gordon as like a sneaky pivot play from all the chalk with Drake and like just pretty much everyone. He's like kind of the forgotten guy in the price tier this week. But really, the only play I like in this game is going to be KJ Hamler, discount play. He's $3K on DK. I actually picked him up in season long. Had 7 targets last week, which he was able to convert into 8.7 DK points. And the thing that really popped for me was that the routes that he was running, he was so wide open. The only problem with that is, I don't know, Driscoll's not really a timing quarterback, which does worry me, but still, he looked super impressive. So I'm not locking in Hamler just because there's a lot of great plays, but it's so cheap for a guy that's going to 3X at least.
He's a guy in season-long fantasy I would like to pick up and try and stash a week
Yeah.
early or two, just because, I mean, I definitely see something there too. So I agree with you 110% there. That week one Bucks game against the Saints was perfect because it totally calmed down expectations. And now they're a team, like, I mean, 5.5 point favorites against a banged up
Hmm.
quarterback. Granted, it's on the road, but I mean, last week was their like refocus
Yeah.
game, and I still think they're going to be a legit team.
Yeah.
I think they're going to win the division. I don't know, but I definitely think they'll be able to squeak in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. And then I just want to go back to this game real quick before we kind of wrap it up. So just receiver wise, and this is kind of the problem with this whole slate in general, and kind of why I was wanting to attack it early and late slate. It's because you got Evans and Godwin that are priced up a little bit more than like Cooper and Lockett and Metcalf. Like Evans and Godwin are absolutely great plays this week. We know that, but there's better, cheaper plays than them. So I'd rather just take the price discounts. But that honestly, that could be the make or break
Mm-hmm.
point. And that kind of just really sums up the week that we have. I'd rather attack a game that's going to be higher scoring as well, which is why I've been favoring Cooper, Lockett, Metcalf than Evans and Godwin. But it's a crazy week. I mean, there's a ton of great plays, especially at receiver. It's hard to have like straight up conviction on one play, but we know that there's just a bunch of good plays, and that's kind of the bad part about this week. Although obviously it should be good.
Yeah, I honestly the most compelling thing that you've said so far, the most intriguing one would be the Teddy Robbie A stack. The one that
Low
kind of
owned.
really, yeah, low owned, good value caught my attention there. It looks like we haven't gotten to the Sunday night game, the Packers at New Orleans. There are quite interesting plays here, especially with Devontae Adams, a game time decision, but doubtful.
Hmm.
He's a guy right now I have in my flex in one regular league and just waiting to swap him out for Traquan Smith.
Waiting for the tears of
Sad,
swapping him out.
yep. But again, you kind of mentioned there could be some good value plays. I think for Packers receivers. What are your thoughts with this one?
Yeah, so I actually really like that game. I think the Packers are should be at least a touchdown favorite. Honestly, with Michael Thomas out, that offense looked horrible. Um,
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so MVS I think would be my go-to kind of value play there, and then Lazard's fine play. But Aaron Jones was absolutely electric last week. I think I would try to fit in my builds. It's going to be pretty easy, I think, for the Sunday game. You want to fit in Kamara, you want to fit in Aaron Jones, you want to fit in MVS, and then probably Aaron Rodgers as well, and then go from there. Whether it's like Traquan Smith or Jared Cook, Alan Lazard, you can kind of figure that out as you go. But that's going to be the route I would go. And for,
Drew
yeah.
Brees looks just ancient at this point. I mean, his arm, like, I mean, they have to use Taysom Hill to throw the deep ball now.
Yeah.
It's it's not pretty for me. And I mean, that's I guess why Michael Thomas shined, just because he got so many of those short route targets and
Mm.
and whatnot last year. So curious where those targets continue to fall with him out.
They should have
Is
went to
it
Cook.
Traquan Smith?
They should have went to Cook. They just didn't.
Yeah.
It's weird.
But who do you think it is? Because I mean, Emmanuel Sanders does not look great. Traquan Smith, just because he's a guy, a body.
It'll be.
What?
It's more or less who the Packers decide to put the best cornerback in the league against.
Right.
But seriously, Jari
Nice.
Alexander, no, he's been like
No,
one of
he's.
the best, if not the best, so far in
Yeah.
2 games. But
I don't disagree.
like, I don't think they're gonna make him travel to like Sanders or Smith just because like why would you? It's more or
He's gonna play
less.
the side of the field.
Yeah, it's more or less like which one of those two gets it done. I don't know.
Hmm.
I think I liked Smith a little bit more, but Sanders, I think he just had a bad work day last week.
Yeah. No, for sure. I'm not crazy about Sanders, but yeah, like you said, that could just be an overreaction too.
Hmm.
Um, anything else with that game?
So Infamous asked about would you play Rogers or Breeze in that game, or both. I would play Rogers for sure. I don't think you have to play Breeze, although I think it will be pretty easy to fit him into your build if you want to go that route.
Yeah. Safe floor.
Hmm.
It's, I mean, nothing exciting, but I mean, it's definitely a play you can make. Um, yeah. And as far as the overall game goes, um, I think the Packers should be favored. I don't know about or a touchdown. That
You got a
seems a bit
touchdown.
aggressive. What's that?
You got a touchdown. Oh
Well,
no,
no,
I said
you
touchdown.
mentioned,
Yeah, no. So
yeah.
I'm saying like I would rather make that a touchdown. So increase
Uh,
what you can win a little bit more with that because I
right.
think they're going to win by a touchdown. I have it at +3.5 for the Packers.
I got it. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree with that play. I like that, especially. I mean, again, with Michael Thomas out, it's a matter of how well they can get Alvin Kamara going. I've said it before. I'll say it again. The Packers feel like the most recent most recent run that Tom Brady and the Patriots had. It's obviously there are things Aaron Rodgers can do when he needs to and wants to, quite frankly, but it's definitely a more balanced offense, almost a little predictable, but it's effective. And
Mm-hmm.
it just, they move the clock. It's frustrating. Like their defense is solid. But I really, I don't know. Packers, I think, will make a pretty good run this year. So yeah, I would go with the Packers too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that play a lot actually.
Well, it's play what you know.
Chiefs, right. Do you want to get to the Monday night game or is this something you're saving?
No, I don't want to touch that game. That game is going to be an
Yeah.
absolute like guessing game. So I just don't want to make any predictions on that because that game is going to be fun to watch, but not fun to gamble on.
I kind of like the over under. I would actually take the under. I think people are expecting this like the Chiefs Rams game in Mexico City. I don't look past these defenses.
Yeah.
I think both defenses are good. I mean, the Chiefs played pretty well against Lamar last year.
Mm-hmm.
This like every time I see like actually invest in watching Lamar, I always get frustrated because I always feel like he underperforms based off of how good he is.
Yeah.
So, and of course that's, I guess confirmation bias there, but it's still, I mean, and again, the Chiefs last week, it's not like they lit it up, against the Chargers. I like the defenses in this game. So it's going to be frustrating, I think. I mean, all around,
Yeah.
you got to temper expectations for sure.
No, you brought up a good point. Those defenses have been a little bit better than people give them credit for, and kind of goes back to the point of why I don't want to attack it betting wise, DFS wise, and whatnot.
And I mean, the Chiefs aren't a playmaking type of defense either. I mean, they're not going to get in your face and get a bunch of big plays, but
They don't
at
have
the
to.
same, they don't have to exactly. Like they can just kind of bend but not break. Heavy settle for three, and then they're gonna score back-to-back touchdowns unanswered when they want to. So it's just a matter of if they will against the Ravens. So
For sure.
yeah, I like. I don't like touching that game. Like I said, I'd maybe mess with the under, but that's about it.
All right, so just to finish up the video, so we'll just recap kind of my favorite plays, and then I'll have you recap your favorite plays, pretty much. So at the running back spots, I really like Derrick Henry. I really like Jonathan Taylor, Eckler. I like as well, and then Kenyon Drake is really cheap. So those are the plays that I like. I know me and Isaac kind of agreed that Teddy Bridgewater is kind of the de facto discount quarterback play. And then really Kyler Murray is the one I want to pay up for safe-wise, but you also easily fit in Russell Wilson. Receiver spot, it's going to be mixing and matching this week. There's nothing too much that I like. And then let me find what was my favorite bet. I forget now. Too much information.
And I mean, and I already lost the
Vikings.
the Tannehill cost, but a Tannehill stack I think would be great this week. Humphreys, Johnny Smith for 5,200. I like just those matchups against that secondary until I see otherwise, and until they get healthy. That's going to be a gimme stream every week now, which is so weird to think about considering how Zimmer's defense has been in years past. But and part of it's just their lack of pass rush right now too, to make up for the young secondary.
And that was our lock bet too, right? The Titans over the Vikings.
Yep. I and again, that 3 points scares me.
It moved down to 2.5 now. I just saw on DK.
Oh, it did?
On DK
Again, I don't. What are they seeing that? Like, I don't get it. But yeah, no, I definitely plan on getting my wager in real quick on that. So,
all right. You want to do a little sign off here?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, let me plug. Speaking of BetMGM, if you use if you're in Indiana, any viewers here, if you use the promo code Brooks100, place a $1 money line wager on the Colts. The Colts, or sorry, Indianapolis. I can't say the team for this. Indianapolis versus New York game legally. If either team scores a touchdown on that $1 money line wager, you get $100 in free bets. Use the promo code Brooks100. Must be 21 years old or in Indiana, gambling problem, I call it. But yeah, so that's a big thing. You can follow me at Brooks Radio on all socials too. Yeah, it's a lot of football and country music. So
it's good
enjoy.
stuff. Beers with Brooks, I've plugged a few times. It's a little nice, fun activity on Instagram Live here and there. So.
Yeah, and it's also going to be a podcast soon, and that'll be a little bit more freeform,
Really?
not just country music. Yeah,
Nice.
we're gonna do, sports, comedy, the whole deal. So stay tuned for that too.
That's exciting. Actually, I'm gonna have to give that a listen because it sucks when I miss like the Instagram Live video. I just, for some reason, I don't want to go back and rewatch it.
No.
For some reason, it's one of the weirdest things. But like a podcast, I would love to go back and actually like.
I want to,
re-listen
yeah,
to
I
this.
want some more. I want some, like, I like the interaction of live, but I also want to have something to listen and binge.
That's kind of the
like
beauty
a
of
podcast.
that's the beauty of like YouTube Live. It's like I like to have the interaction with all the people with 9 to 5 and stuff, and you can talk a little bit more on the live stream specifically for YouTube, where it's kind of like the exact opposite for you. It seems like where like I do the core plays video to get like straight to the point, but which is kind of what you have to do with Instagram Live. So.
Right. No, absolutely. So, yeah, that's all I got though.
Yeah.
It should be an interesting Sunday of football. I do not, if you're in a pick'em pool, good luck. If you do well, show me and I will give mad props.
I am probably going to take a nap for the morning games and then wake up for the afternoon games. But other than that,
I mean, the Vikings might make me take a nap, but
right.
yeah, I am looking forward to the afternoon games for sure.
Oh, yeah, it'll be fun. All right, so thanks, Isaac. Brooks Radio for being on. I appreciate it. It was a good time. Bets with Brooks maybe coming up here too as well. We'll have Be in the House with Ozzy. Bets with Brooks maybe. I think that's a nice little thing we could have going there. But